February of 2003 in the city of Los Angeles. This is where 21-year-old Kristi Johnson is living and following her dreams. And that was to pursue her goal of getting into the film industry. Kristi, who is in LA, called her mom Terry and told her that she was headed to the Century City Mall to do some shopping. And surely, Terry was expecting to get a call on Sunday to hear exactly what Kristi had bought herself. But that afternoon, the phone didn't ring at Terry's home. 2 days with no word from Kristi, her daughter, was locked. She and her mom caught up almost daily. So when Terry calls around and learns that Kristi, back in LA, also missed work on Monday the 17th, she is very worried. This isn't like Kristi at all, which is why Terry ends up calling the Santa Monica police that same day. But when the police go and talk to Kristi's roommate at this same time, the roommate's name is Carrie, chances of Kristi just losing her phone or being in Mexico look less and less likely. Carrie, the roommate, says that Kristi did go to the mall, and when she came back, she had some exciting news to share. While at the mall, she had met someone there, a producer who was scouting women for a new James Bond movie. The producer gave Kristi a time and a location for later that afternoon, that she needed to wear a man's white dress shirt, a short mini skirt, and a pair of stilettos. Kristi gets into her car, a white Miata, sometime before 5:30 p.m. that same day. She's heading for an audition in Beverly Hills. After this, Kristi didn't return home. Fast forward to the investigation, they're talking to Carrie, and there's one big problem. When police call around town, Hollywood, asking if anyone knows of a new James Bond movie that's in the works, there's an audition, they can't get a confirmation. So investigators speak with security at the mall, and they end up watching hours of footage, hoping to spot Kristi. And while they do find a tape of her shopping alone, she's never seen with or speaking to anyone else on those tapes. But what's interesting is Kristi's last phone call went out from her cell phone at 5:32 p.m. She wasn't in Beverly Hills when she made that call. She was in the Laurel Canyon area. So 5 days after Kristi is last seen, she's now been missing for 5 days. Her family finally gets a hit. A woman named Susan Murphy sees an article in the Los Angeles Times, and she thinks, this sounds an awful lot like an experience she had just experienced. Susan did follow through on the audition request like Kristi had, which was set for the following day. Only she brought her boyfriend along. Before she goes with him, she's like, hey, can you give me some ID? And his response was, oh, well, I left it back on set. And that is when Susan is like, no. He begins to tell Susan, you weren't the right fit for the part anyways, and literally turns around and ran. So thankfully, Susan and her boyfriend get a good description of the guy. He's a white male with short curly hair who told them his name was Victor Thomas. And things are not looking up on February 24th, 9 days later, when there is a new break in the case. Police get a hit when someone claimed Kristi's car had been valeted at the St. Regis Hotel right next to the Century City Mall. They said the car had been dropped off a little before dawn on the 16th. This is the morning after Kristi disappeared.
Okay.
And that sketch Susan helped make seems to help because a real estate agent goes to police at this point with information. Apparently, while checking out one of the properties, the prospective buyer went into another room, closed the door, and screamed. Then he came out and asked the real estate agent if he had heard it. So police get a list of every property the agent showed, and around this time, they also get another bite. A parole officer calls the police to say, hey, that sketch you just put out actually looks a lot like one of the parolees that I'm working with. I actually haven't heard from him since January 20th. He's broken his parole. 40-year-old Victor Paleologos. He was a Philadelphia native who moved to Los Angeles in his 20s after getting divorced. So Victor opened not one, but 3 different spots over the years in the Hollywood area, and each one of them ended up failing. One of those failed restaurants was in the building where Victor told Susan Murphy to come meet him for her supposed audition. Victor turned to a life of crime when he reached his late 20s, forging documents, stalking, sexual assault. He had been preying on ambitious women and their careers since 1989. In 1999, he goes after 28-year-old Kathy DeBono. He gave her the same song and dance about the James Bond casting. He's now kind of really diving in with this specific storyline. We now have Susan, who has heard about Kristi's story and has come forward. And then as soon as Kathy sees Kristi Johnson's story on the news, she also decides to come forward. She sees the sketch. She knows it's the same guy. It's the same experience she had. So now police have a name and many witnesses verifying Victor's identity and his choice of crime. So they begin searching for him. And he's actually pretty easy to find. He's already landed himself back in jail for trying to steal a BMW off a dealership lot in Beverly Hills. So it's around February 25th when police go down and speak to Victor, who is sitting in jail. They show up. They're like, hey, what'd you do with Kristi? And he's like, I never met Kristi.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know anything about her case. However, things take a turn on March 3rd. That day, a few hikers are on a path in the Hollywood Hills. This is where her phone last pinged. And they're walking around this area surrounding a ravine when they spot something. It's a sleeping bag with what appears to be a body inside. Her hands and ankles are bound. She has been strangled. Now, due to the level of decomposition, the medical examiner believes she was out there in this sleeping bag for about 16 days, meaning she was most likely killed the day she disappeared. So Victor pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder in Kristi's case. So the trial doesn't actually start until July of 2006. This is 3 years after the murder. 2 weeks into that testimony, Victor and his counsel make a shocking announcement. They have decided to change his plea to guilty to avoid the death penalty.
Coward, coward, coward.
Shortly after this, he actually tries to back out of his plea. He's like, never mind. I want to plead not guilty. So after refusing to allow him to change his plea back, the judge sentenced Victor to 25 years to life in prison for Kristi's murder. He says they smoked weed and had consensual sex, and during it, he choked her, which she also consented to, and then she didn't wake up. And that was when he panicked, put her in the sleeping bag, and rolled her into a ravine.
It's just such a lie.
I do know this. Victor actually had a potential parole hearing scheduled in October of 2025.
Okay.
So just 2 months ago. But he waived his right to the parole hearing. And of the sources I looked at, I don't have like a solid concrete
on why.
But I do know that Kristi's mother has come out and said it was like just a huge weight off her back, and a huge sigh of relief because now she and other victims don't have to attend this parole hearing and fight for justice because he waived his right. And that is what we have up to date. He obviously will have more parole
There's got to be a
opportunities.
reason, like he met with an attorney and they said, wait, like there's something going on.
Right. Now, there is still a group called Justice for Kristi that has been working to block Victor from receiving parole. Now in his 60s, many of the survivors think he's still got plenty of years in him at 60 to still kill again.
100%.
And in this time, they are not going to let that happen without a fight. And that is the case of Kristi Johnson. I love it.
I hate it.
Goodbye.